I think that's one of the functions of poetry. You know,
Yeah.
when you write something and you get it published, whether it's in your own book or anthology, it becomes a document that can withstand the test of time.
Hey,
What's going on?
so I got your book here.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm
So what are you going to read for us today?
going to read one of the poems from the book, Loose Change.
Awesome.
And it's based on a painting by Betty Saar. Uh,
Hmm.
the painting is called Hellfighter, and the subtitle is Josiah WW1. And so my research into Josiah, I uncovered that he was part of the 369th Infantry Unit from Harlem, New York, who participated in the First World War.
Hmm.
And this unit, it was something else. They were known for their bravery and their courageous deeds and just their military exploits. And that's how they got the nickname Hellfighters. And so
Oh, yeah.
they were lauded as heroes in Europe, particularly France. And so there's a couple of references in the poem. Of course, this is early 1900s. So Plessy versus Ferguson, that was a Supreme Court case here in the States that said that segregation could be the law of the land. And then there's the mention of Birth of a Nation, which was a film made by D.W. Griffith, which kind of launched gave some validity to the KKK. And there's some other references here about black codes and red summer. And so the guys, as I mentioned, they were hailed as heroes in Europe. But the problem was when they returned back home after the war,
Yeah.
the status quo dictated that they should stay in their place and be boys instead of men. But these guys, not only the 369, but black soldiers in general, they wasn't putting up with any of that. And so what ensued was there were race riots all over the country in 1919, and that was known as the Red Hot Summer. So from Houston to Atlanta to Chicago to New York to Detroit even. And so that pattern not only followed the first war, but also the second war as well. So I'm going to read Hellfighter, Josiah, WW1. For a long time, Josiah, it made no sense at all. Wanted to make the world safe for democracy in the shadows of Plessy versus Ferguson, the birth of a nation. But all along, it was the uniform that straightened your backbone, bent your ear toward the whole of slave ships chopping Atlantic waves. It was in that uniform on the Western Front where you were the first to reach the Rhine, wounding Germans, winning the Croix de Guerre, planting syncopated seeds in European soil. Returning home to farm and factory, no amount of black codes or red summer could separate you from that uniform. Not even after white men met you at the station, ripped it from your back, dragged you into the woods to tie those stars and stripes around your neck. So you get this terrific painting of this African American soldier, and his whole demeanor just by being in that uniform changes. And so there's a contradiction there going on. I mean, you got guys living in the country during that time, America, right?
Yeah.
Where he couldn't even go to a restaurant unless he had to go to the back. Of course, if he
Right.
wanted to ride public transportation, that was done in the back. So
Right.
you living as a black man during that time, you're living in this very repressive environment, but yet you're willing to go and fight
Right.
because you believe in the ideal or the promise of America.
Right.
So to
Right.
me, this whole contradiction kind of appealed to me. And
That,
as I mentioned earlier, black soldiers from not only from the first war went through this, but also from the second war and uh, even back as far as the Revolutionary War. So
right.
like work like yours, work, just working with the archives is so important because it's a chance to uncover what should have already been uncovered. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Well, it does, and it really ties into what we're dealing with in America now. There's this theory called critical race theory,
mm,
and basically it's just a pure examination of American history. But there's some people that are hijacking that, and they're saying that, well, if you teach this to our, especially our young people, you're going to make them feel guilty about what white people have done in the past and all this type of stuff. But that's just a camouflage, I think, to obs- to just obscure the facts. I mean, you can't cover up what happened. I mean, you just have to deal with it for what it is. And so I think just teaching history, the way it happened is the best way to deal with the truth. And so if you do, if a public school system decides to incorporate the theory, what you'll find is that there were some white people who actually gave their lives in the pursuit of freedom for everyone. So
that's right.
it's not an attempt to make white people feel guilty about everything. It's just a way to teach history the way it is. So I mean, you'll have discussions about John Brown and several people during the civil rights movement who were killed and murdered.
So you have you got your Eliza Wood poem on tap?
I do have a lot of work.
That we're going in that direction, maybe?
Yeah, it's no problem. So Eliza Woods. Okay, in America from 1877 to 1950, there were 4,000 lynchings in the United States of America. 4,000 that we know about, right?
Yep.
I'm in Jackson, Tennessee, which is geographically about halfway between Memphis and Nashville, if that helps anybody. So I found out that there were three lynchings here, and one of them was a black woman, which was kind of rare. I mean, black women were lynched from 1877 to 1950, but just to hear about this in my hometown was very compelling, and I wanted to know more about the story. And so my research led me to discover that Eliza Woods was a black domestic worker in 1886.
Mm-hmm.
She was working for a white family, and the matriarch of the family was poisoned to death. Okay, so Eliza was implicated, and she was arrested on August 18th, 1886. She was taken to jail. A white mob stormed the jail that night, and they ripped her clothes off and dragged her through the streets of Jackson, and they hung her from a tree and riddled her body with bullets and all this type of stuff. And so one of the things about a public lynching like that, naturally they were trying to impose retribution on Eliza, but also they would send a message to the black community as a whole, right? If you get out of line, then this is what's going to happen to you. Okay, so this poem is simply called Eliza Woods. Most nights you can find Eliza Woods downtown, sitting on the base of our monument to the Confederate dead, digging into the dirt under the moonlight, excavating for a relic of justice. Speak her name, she'll raise her head, scan the horizon that swallows your voice with echoes of curses, rebel yells, shotgun blasts that leave exit wounds in the sky. Sheriff Person could not protect you, Eliza. White men with torches, bloodlust in their eyes, ripped the clothes off your back and drove you from a jail cell into the August night. The carnival had come to town. White kids cartwheel the stars. White women jostle babies on hips and reminisce about the last time. Their men slobber the flask between them and music square dance from H.C. Bryant's hardware. Did you recognize the faces, Eliza? Black faces made to assemble and bow to a history of degradation and fear. Lessons taught from a crumpled constitution in the hands of Jim Crow. Forced to confess poisoning Miss Jessie, you spoke silence, would not be the last to be slapped, spat upon, driven from one judgment place to another. Your sex would not save you. The color of blackness, unforgivable. Your flesh bruised along cobblestones, scraped raw on Jackson streets, strangled in a noose and nailed to a tree where gunshots found your body. The mob roared, the night sighed. In the morning, makeshift grave clothes entombed you. Shafts of sunlight filtered your remains, cast shadows on a silver crucifix trampled in the broken earth. So what we did, there were a cross-section of citizens who were also touched and somewhat outraged about what had happened because this woman never got due process. So the rest of the story goes that a few years afterwards, her husband confessed to murdering his wife. So Eliza was innocent all along, but she never received due process of a trial or anything like that. So the cross section of citizens, we formed a coalition and we partnered with an organization in Alabama called the Equal Justice Initiative. And from that, we were able to erect a marker at the site of the courthouse where Eliza Woods was lynched from a tree. So I was able to write that marker, and it's still there. It was a battle,
Yeah,
to get that marker erected because you still have people who are stuck in some Jim Crow ways, not only locally but nationally. And so we had to put up a fight, but a couple of years ago we got the marker up.
so anybody visiting Jackson would see it if they were in the right place.
It's on the courthouse square.
Yeah, wow. So in that sense, from my mind, you're making the archive too, right? You're taking something and saying, look, this, you're marking the moment. You're marking this woman's memory, her life, her legacy.
I hadn't thought about that, but that's a wonderful concept, and I think that's one of the functions of poetry. When you write something and you get it published, whether it's in your own book or anthology, it becomes a document that can withstand the test of time. I mean, 20 years from now, some kid can pull a book off a library shelf, and hopefully he can read about Eliza Woods or the 369th Infantry. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, I'm honored to be part of Poetry on the Move.